The camera pans slowly across the cold vastness of space, the blackness punctuated only by distant stars and the pale blue glow of Earth. Near Mars' orbit, faint ripples distort the void like invisible waves, subtle at first, almost unnoticeable. Scientists in observatories and orbital stations across the globe notice anomalies in energy readings, faint but irregular, a silent pulse in the darkness. Satellites begin experiencing minor malfunctions, their telemetry data spiking and failing in ways that don't align with any known natural phenomena. Astronomers exchange anxious glances, realizing this is something beyond ordinary space debris or solar storms. The air is thick with tension, and even the most skeptical minds feel the creeping unease of the unknown. Something massive is approaching, but no one yet knows what form it will take. Inside military command centers, generals and officers convene emergency meetings. Holographic maps of the solar system flicker with the erratic movements of unidentified objects near Mars and the asteroid belt. Analysts suggest rogue asteroids, experimental weapons tests, or deep space phenomena, but none of their projections explain the scale or coordination of these anomalies. Phones ring constantly. Dispatches are sent to space agencies and defense networks. Officers pace in sterile, fluorescent-lit rooms, tension visible in every movement. The sense of urgency builds steadily. Humanity is staring into the abyss of the unknown. Yet the abyss hasn't revealed its teeth. Yet. Back on Earth, the civilian world is oblivious, their lives continuing under the ordinary hum of daily routine. Street cameras capture nothing unusual. The media reports nothing beyond minor satellite failures. Yet, in a quiet observatory in Japan, a young astrophysicist traces the energy waves back to a single point. Her heart races as she realizes these are not random anomalies. They are coordinated, purposeful, and approaching fast. The room is silent, except for the hum of computers, each displaying growing patterns of incomprehensible precision. She attempts to alert international authorities, but her voice falters, a creeping sense of fear settling into her bones. Something is coming, and it's not human. The scene ends with a panoramic zoom from her terrified eyes to the void near Mars, the anomalies pulsing brighter now, casting a faint glow on the Martian surface. The camera lingers, emphasizing scale and isolation. The audience feels the suspense, the tension of an approaching unstoppable force. There is no sound from the void, yet the silence speaks volumes. Humanity is on the precipice of disaster, and the first domino has only just begun to fall. Without warning, Tyranid scouts breach the outer perimeter of Earth's orbit. At first, they are tiny blips, barely distinguishable from cosmic dust, but their velocity is unnatural, their formation precise and alien. In Tokyo, citizens go about their morning routines, unaware of the approaching doom. Then, a distant explosion rips across the sky. A mushrooming column of bioplasma erupts over the city skyline. Buildings are reduced to molten skeletal remains in seconds. Screams fill the air, mixed with sirens and panicked cries. Military units attempt to respond, jets scrambling, but conventional weapons barely scratch the incoming Tyranid biovessels. Tanks fire as plumes of plasma boil past them. Infantry scatter helplessly. Chaos reigns. Amidst the devastation, the camera follows a small group of human protagonists. A battle-hardened soldier grabs his squad, directing civilians into underground shelters. A scientist, clutching her data pads, frantically records everything, trying to understand the mechanics of the attack. A young civilian, separated from her family, navigates the burning streets, eyes wide with terror. Their stories intertwine, giving the audience emotional anchors to the horror. Close-up shots reveal the devastation on a personal level. The shock in the eyes of a parent as they are forced to leave a child behind. The adrenaline-fueled desperation of soldiers charging into impossible odds. The Tyranid forces continue their systematic destruction. A swarm of hormagaunts pours into the streets, tearing through armored vehicles and barricades with uncanny speed. Military helicopters attempt evasive maneuvers, only to be shredded mid-air by bioclaws. Explosions illuminate the streets in bursts of orange and red, casting the survivors' faces into stark silhouettes of fear and despair. The alien creatures seem to anticipate every human tactic, adapting instantaneously to new weapons. The camera lingers on the horror of one street corner. Civilians caught in a collapsing building as Tyranids advance. The only sounds, their frantic screams, and the wet, horrifying sounds of Tyranid feeding. By the end of this scene, the protagonists manage to regroup in a semi-intact building on the city outskirts. The camera pans outward to reveal Tokyo in ruins, a vision of apocalyptic horror. In orbit, the Tyranid scouts transmit their findings to the Hive Fleet, their synapse signals pulsing across the void. Humanity has experienced its first true strike, an unrelenting, adaptive foe whose arrival signals the end of conventional warfare. The audience is left suspended in terror, understanding the scale of the threat and feeling the intimate horror of those trapped in its path. News broadcasts flash across the globe with frantic urgency. Anchors speak over chaotic footage. New York, Paris, Sydney, Mumbai, all cities under siege or already destroyed. Governments declare martial law. Evacuation orders are issued, yet panic spreads faster than any evacuation plan can manage. Airports are overwhelmed, highways jammed with refugees. Public order collapses. Social media becomes a hive of speculation, fear, and misinformation. The Tyranids' adaptability becomes evident as reports describe military attempts to slow their advance, failing instantly. Conventional weapons, missiles, and even tactical nukes barely dent the alien swarms. Humanity is unprepared for this predator, and the world begins to fracture under the weight of hopelessness. In shelters and makeshift command centers, military leaders struggle to coordinate global defenses. Alliances are strained as countries accuse one another of hoarding resources or failing to act. Strategists try to anticipate the Tyranids' movements, but each maneuver is countered by the alien hive mind's instantaneous adaptation. The human protagonists from Scene 2 are shown navigating this chaos. The soldier leads civilians through an abandoned subway tunnel. A mother searches frantically for her children in collapsing cities, and the scientist scrambles to send critical data to other observatories, hoping to provide some leverage. Every character faces impossible choices, every decision weighted with life and death consequences. Amidst the chaos, small heroic moments shine. Soldiers risk their lives to pull civilians from collapsing buildings. Civilians hide, guide, and protect each other, forming bonds forged in shared terror. The audience is emotionally invested as families are separated, friends are lost, and fleeting glimmers of hope clash with the overarching doom. Tyranid swarms are shown tearing through forests, power plants, and farmland, leaving no corner of the world untouched. The planetary scale of the threat becomes chillingly clear. The scene slows for a moment of reflection. A quiet shot shows the protagonist standing atop a rubble-strewn city hill, looking out at the smoldering skyline. The world is unraveling around them. Above, the Tyranid bioships orbit, a silent reminder of the unstoppable predator now focused entirely on Earth. The scene fades to black, with distant screams, punctuated by the alien chittering signals of the approaching hive fleet. The audience is left emotionally unsettled, aware that the human story has only just begun, and survival is anything but guaranteed. The world mobilizes in a desperate, last-ditch effort. Military bases across continents buzz with activity. Warships leave ports, bombers take to the skies, and mechanized units roll through cities, forests, and deserts alike. From the deserts of Nevada to the plains of Russia, humans unite under one banner of survival. Fighter jets streak through the skies, dropping high-yield bombs on Tyranid bioships, while massive artillery barrages attempt to hold back advancing swarms. Experimental weapons, some still in testing phases, are fired without hesitation. The camera cuts between these epic military operations, showing humanity's determination, but the Tyranids respond with unnerving precision. Despite humanity's might, the Tyranids shrug off attacks as if invulnerable. Swarms scatter to avoid bombardments. Gaunts adapt to tank shells mid-charge, and termagants fire bioplasma with unnerving accuracy. Entire platoons are decimated in moments, tanks melted into molten shells, and helicopters shredded before reaching the front lines. Soldiers' eyes widen in disbelief as familiar tactics fail instantly. Each skirmish ends with a small victory or a fleeting moment of hope, quickly extinguished by the relentless alien horde. Audiences feel a growing horror as the realization sinks in. Conventional warfare may no longer be enough. Amidst the chaos, the human protagonists are shown in personal struggles. The soldier from Tokyo coordinates small squads, desperately trying to pull civilians from collapsing streets, while the scientist races to analyze Tyranid behavior in real time. A young civilian, still lost and traumatized, navigates ruins to help survivors, witnessing friends die in front of them. Emotional beats land hard. A medic sacrifices themselves to save children. A soldier says goodbye to a dying comrade with trembling hands, and families are torn apart by the carnage. Every action is fraught with tension, heroism mingled with despair, giving the audience a deep emotional connection. The Tyranids continue to evolve on the battlefield. Observers note changes in skin textures, the growth of spikes, and the emergence of new mutations mid-combat. This constant adaptation drives humans into panic, forcing them to improvise even as their best weapons fail. Cities burn, forests collapse, and oceans churn with the advancing horde. The camera lingers on horrifying details: civilians being dragged into alien biopods, soldiers engulfed in swarming masses, and skyscrapers toppled under the relentless onslaught. Humanity fights back with everything it has, but the fight feels increasingly futile. Smoke curls into the sky, punctuated by distant bioplasma flashes. The soldier grips his weapon, face streaked with dirt and tears, while the scientist frantically types data into a battered laptop. They exchange brief words of determination, but the weight of loss hangs heavy in the air. As the Tyranid swarm approaches the stronghold's perimeter, a quiet silence falls, broken only by the wet, chittering sounds of the alien horde. Humanity has fought back with all its might, but the cost is horrifyingly clear. Their struggle is only beginning. In a desperate bid to understand their enemy, scientists capture a Tyranid synapse creature using energy nets and experimental containment fields. The creature thrashes violently, its alien anatomy pulsating with bioenergy, and the air crackles with psychic resonance. Observers watch in awe and terror, as the hive mind communicates in ways human minds struggle to comprehend. Synapse waves ripple across the battlefield, controlling countless swarms simultaneously. Data streams flood monitors, revealing the horrifying truth. Tyranids adapt in real time. Weapons are analyzed and countered in milliseconds. Armor-piercing shells are evaded, plasma weapons neutralized, and defensive formations rendered irrelevant almost instantly. The main scientist, eyes wide and hair disheveled, realizes humanity's conventional strategies are now obsolete. Every military tactic, every coordinated strike is being learned and countered by the hive mind. Attempts to destroy the synapse creature fail as it unleashes psychic feedback, disrupting electronics and killing several soldiers near its containment field. Panic spreads among the researchers, a mixture of fear and disbelief. The audience feels the chilling weight of this revelation. The Tyranids are not just creatures, they are a collective intelligence that can anticipate and outmaneuver human ingenuity. Meanwhile, the soldier and civilian protagonists witness firsthand the chaos unfolding as swarms alter their formations instantly. Streets that seemed defensible moments ago are suddenly overrun. Mutations appear mid-battle, new appendages, claws, and bioplasma nodes forming before human eyes. Horror grips the survivors as they watch friends and comrades fall to these evolving monstrosities. The camera focuses on the visceral details. Bodies torn apart, blood mixing with alien secretions, and the twisted, unnatural grace of Tyranid movements. Emotional tension peaks as hope diminishes. Survival is no longer just difficult, it seems almost impossible. A particularly harrowing moment occurs when the synapse creature breaks free during containment testing, unleashing a psychic scream that sends waves of terror across the battlefield. Soldiers drop their weapons, civilians scream, and nearby infrastructure crumbles. The scene conveys that humanity's fight is not just physical, but psychic, and that their enemy cannot be reasoned with or bargained. The horror is overwhelming, combining action, suspense, and cosmic dread. The air thick with alien spores and the smell of burning cities. The scientist clutches notes, murmuring desperate calculations about the hive mind's capabilities, while the soldier leads the remaining civilians with grim determination. In the distance, new Tyranid mutations emerge from the rubble, grotesque and terrifying. Humanity now understands the full scale of its foe. Nothing short of extinction-level devastation could stop this unstoppable predator. A major city, New York, is now ground zero for an apocalyptic siege. Streets are littered with debris, burning vehicles, and the twisted remains of buildings. Tyranid swarms pour into every alley, subway, and avenue, overwhelming barricades with relentless efficiency. The main characters navigate this hellscape, fighting in close-quarters combat, where every corner hides a lurking threat. The soldier fires at point-blank range, while the civilian uses improvised traps to slow down approaching creatures. The scientist, carrying crucial data, narrowly avoids a Hormagon attack, adding tension to each breathless moment. The horror is amplified as the Tyranids evolve mid-battle. A swarm of termagants suddenly sprouts chitinous armor mid-charge. Claws and mandibles grow to monstrous sizes. Larger, grotesque creatures, lictors and carnifexes, tear through concrete and steel with terrifying ease. Blood, biomatter, and alien secretion cover the streets, painting a vivid, horrifying tableau. Each corner turned brings new suspense and dread. Every victory is temporary, every breath a gamble. The audience is fully immersed in the claustrophobic terror of urban warfare against an unstoppable foe. A young soldier or civilian sacrifices themselves to save the others from being devoured. The camera lingers on their final moments, a flash of courage, a scream, and then silence. leaving only the protagonist's grief and horror. The audience feels the weight of these losses, emotionally tethered to the story, even as the relentless action continues. Meanwhile, Tyranids continue to adapt. Every weapon, trap, or improvised barricade is countered. New forms appear mid-fight, grotesque hybrids that defy comprehension. A constant reminder that humanity is outmatched. Explosions illuminate the streets intermittently, casting long, eerie shadows of skeletal skyscrapers and alien forms. The protagonists fight with desperation, exhaustion, and raw courage, their every move a test of will and survival. The city reduced to chaos, fires burning across the skyline, and Tyranid swarms advancing relentlessly. The main characters, battered and emotionally drained, find temporary shelter in a partially destroyed skyscraper, watching the alien horde consume everything they once knew. Suspense lingers. The Tyranids are never done, always evolving, always coming. Humanity's fight continues, but the darkness is closing in, leaving the audience on the edge of their seats, emotionally invested, terrified, and hungry for the next act. The world teeters on the brink of extinction. Cities once teeming with life lie in ruins, smoke and fire casting a crimson glow across the horizon. Survivors scramble through deserted highways, shattered skyscrapers, and crumbling suburbs, their faces streaked with ash and blood. Military strongholds, once bastions of human power, have fallen one by one, reduced to smoldering skeletons by relentless Tyranid assaults. Every attempt to regroup is met with adaptive alien counterattacks. Tanks are engulfed in swarming gaunts before reaching strategic points. Fighter jets are shredded mid-air, and naval vessels are torn apart by massive bioships orbiting the planet. Panic and despair saturate every broadcast, every intercepted radio message. The protagonists navigate the chaos, their journey through ruined landscapes underscoring the scale of the catastrophe. The soldier leads the civilian survivors through collapsed tunnels and ravaged streets, their footsteps echoing against the skeletal remains of a once vibrant world. The scientist clutches her critical data, realizing the information may be humanity's last chance to understand the Tyranid hive mind, but doubt gnaws at her resolve. The young civilian, haunted by the loss of family and friends, forces themselves to keep moving, each step a struggle against fatigue, fear, and grief. Their personal journeys mirror the planetary collapse, amplifying the audience's emotional investment. The Tyranids are everywhere, filling the streets, forests, and wastelands. Trees are stripped bare, rivers are clogged with bio-waste, oceans churning as massive creatures hunt relentlessly. Even remote regions are not safe. Tyranid scouts adapt quickly to terrain, leaving no sanctuary untouched. Survivors witness the horrifying evolution of the alien threat firsthand. New forms sprout wings, armor, and devastating appendages mid-assault, crushing defenses before they can be reinforced. Humanity is cornered, survival becoming a brutal test of endurance and cunning, with stakes so high that the slightest misstep can mean annihilation. Moments of horror are interspersed with fleeting acts of courage. A soldier risks his life to save children trapped under rubble. Civilians use improvised explosives to buy time against swarms. The scientist deciphers a fragment of the Tyranid synapse network in a desperate gamble. Every heroism is bittersweet, often ending in tragedy. Families are torn apart, friends lost in gruesome ways. As night falls over the ruined cities, the survivors huddle together in temporary shelters. The distant, chittering sounds of Tyranids, a constant reminder that darkness is closing in, and the edge of humanity is razor thin. The planet is scarred, smoke and fire painting the landscape in apocalyptic reds and blacks. Tyranid bioships, circling like vultures, over the remnants of human civilization. The audience feels the hopelessness, the immense scale of loss, and the suffocating pressure of an unstoppable foe. Humanity is on the edge, and survival hangs by a thread thinner than ever before. The protagonists pause in an abandoned building, the remnants of a once bustling community, now reduced to rubble and echoes of past lives. The soldier tends to a wounded companion, bandaging gashes and whispered reassurances despite the trembling hands and fatigue. The civilian searches for supplies in the wreckage, discovering personal artifacts, a child's toy, a family photo, reminding them of all that has been lost. The scientist examines fragments of data and scribbles frantic calculations, tears streaking her soot-covered face, realizing the true scale of the Tyranid hive mind. The emotional tension deepens as the survivors confront the harsh reality of survival. Families are broken, friends are dead or missing. The young civilian, once full of hope and determination, crumbles under grief, screaming at the sky as Tyranid screeches echo in the distance. The soldier comforts them, but even his stoic resolve falters as the alien threat closes in, the city outside crawling with evolving monstrosities. The camera lingers on the raw emotion, drawing the audience into the human struggle, highlighting despair, fear, and fleeting hope. Horror punctuates these moments of intimacy. Tyranid patrols enter nearby streets, bodies convulsing as mutations twist their forms. Swarms of hormagaunts leap through shattered windows, claws slashing walls and ceilings. Blood and alien ichor mix in grotesque patterns, painting the survivors' temporary refuge with a sense of inescapable doom. Every sound, screams, splintering wood, wet chittering, heightens tension. The audience is made to feel trapped alongside the characters. Suspended between hope and terror, the stakes unbearably high. The group debates whether to stay and fight or flee through unknown terrain. The scientist proposes a risky plan to track synapse signals. The soldier argues for retreat, and the young civilian insists on finding lost family. Conflicting emotions heighten suspense. Ultimately, they make a perilous decision to move forward, leaving behind some remnants of safety. The scene closes with a final shot of the city skyline, flames licking the clouds, Tyranid silhouettes moving in the distance, and the protagonists stepping into the unknown. The audience feels the weight of their grief, the courage of their choice, and the overwhelming darkness pressing in. The protagonists reach the heart of a major city, the last bastion of organized resistance. The streets are a labyrinth of debris, burning vehicles, and collapsed structures. But the human will to fight ignites one final stand. Soldiers take positions, civilians barricade streets, and the scientist deploys experimental devices in a desperate attempt to slow the Tyranid advance. Explosions erupt as tank shells, improvised bombs, and plasma weapons strike swarms. Yet Tyranids adapt in real time, shifting formations and growing new bioarmor in moments. The scene is pure cinematic tension, action, horror, and suspense intertwined. The soldier firing relentlessly, screaming commands as swarms close in. The young civilian dragging wounded survivors into temporary cover. The scientist working furiously to recalibrate devices, sweat and blood mixing with grime. Every corner holds horror. Tyranids erupt from sewers, break through walls, and mutate before human eyes. The city becomes a battlefield of chaos, the streets alive with chittering, screaming, and explosions, a symphony of desperation and violence. A pivotal emotional moment arrives as a beloved character sacrifices themselves to save others, detonating explosives to destroy a Tyranid horde at close range. The camera lingers on their final expression, courage, fear, and resolve, leaving the survivors traumatized but alive. This act amplifies the audience's emotional connection, showing the cost of heroism in a hopeless war. Other survivors press on, their exhaustion palpable, yet their determination unwavering. The scene closes with a wide shot of the city engulfed in flames, Tyranid bioships circling overhead, and swarms crawling through every street. The protagonists find temporary shelter atop a crumbling skyscraper, breathing heavily, bloodied and battered. Silence briefly falls, punctuated by distant, horrifying screeches, the adaptive threat looming over the planet. Humanity has fought valiantly, but the Tyranid nightmare is far from over. The audience is left on the edge of despair, feeling the crushing scale of the alien apocalypse and the fragility of human resistance. The planet is unrecognizable. Once thriving cities are now twisted ruins, smoke and fire suffocating the skyline. Tyranid bioships hover above, casting shadows that blot out the sun. Swarms pour through every street, forest and mountain, devouring life in unimaginable waves. Rivers and oceans churn with alien biomass. Fields and deserts are stripped bare. Humanity's remnants cling to survival in isolated pockets, hiding in underground bunkers or remote wastelands. But the Tyranids hunt tirelessly, guided by a hive mind that adapts to every tactic, every refuge, and every weapon. The protagonists navigate this nightmarish world, battered, starving, and haunted by loss. The soldier leads survivors through jagged rubble, every footstep a risk, every corner a potential death trap. The civilian mourns the family they couldn't save, their face streaked with soot and tears, hands trembling as they clutch a tattered photo. The scientist, desperate, attempts one last calculation, hoping to find a weakness in the Tyranid network. But her eyes betray the grim truth. Survival is almost impossible. Their journey is suffused with tension and horror. Even in hiding, every sound could signal the end. The Tyranids continue to evolve with terrifying speed. Bioplasma clouds erupt from alien organisms, creating scorching rainstorms. Enormous carnifexes tear through what little remains of cities, their claws shredding stone and steel. Swarms of smaller gaunts and hormagaunts consume anything organic, leaving barren, lifeless expanses in their wake. The air itself seems hostile, thick with spores, ichor, and the psychic resonance of the hive mind. Humanity's attempts at defense are futile, and even the most courageous acts are punctuated by devastating losses. Amid the devastation, the human survivors occasionally display fleeting moments of heroism. A soldier sacrifices themselves to hold a collapsing structure against the horde, buying minutes of escape for others. The civilian uses improvised traps to slow a swarm long enough for a group of children to flee underground. The scientist transmits vital data fragments into the void, a message to any surviving forces in space that the Tyranid hive mind is here and unstoppable. These acts, though heroic, carry a heavy emotional weight. They are temporary, small sparks of hope in a world already consumed by darkness. Earth's surface is scoured, blackened, and uninhabitable, a world stripped of all life. Tyranid bioships rise from the planet like living towers, pulsing with energy, sending swarms into orbit. The protagonists, bloodied and exhausted, look out over a wasteland that was once their home. Silence falls, broken only by distant chittering and the low hum of the Hive Fleet. Humanity's struggle continues in pockets, but the inevitability of extinction is palpable. The audience feels cosmic horror, despair, and the vast scale of unstoppable alien predation. The camera pulls back from the devastated Earth, revealing it as a glowing, living biomass hub for the Tyranid Hive Fleet. Swarms crawl across continents, feeding the growth of new bioships, while the hive mind orchestrates expansion into nearby orbiting satellites and planetary debris. The atmosphere is choked with spores and psychic resonance. Every corner of the globe now serves as sustenance for the alien predator. Humanity's achievements, cities, monuments, forests, and oceans are all consumed and repurposed into alien life, leaving a sterile, alien landscape that pulses with life entirely foreign to human experience. The protagonists face the grim truth of finality. The soldier kneels amidst ruins, gripping the hilt of a shattered weapon, eyes fixed on the glowing horizon of bioships. The civilian, weary and traumatized, holds the tattered photo of their lost family, tears mixing with dirt and blood. The scientist transmits one last message, data streaming into space, a warning for other civilizations that the hive mind is adaptive, unstoppable, and now entrenched on Earth. The scene juxtaposes intimate human despair with the planetary-scale horror, intensifying emotional impact. Tyranids continue to evolve in real time. Massive hive creatures rise from the oceans, skyborne lictors patrol ruined cities, and spores blanket the air in suffocating clouds. Smaller swarms scuttle across continents, consuming every remnant of organic life. The planet itself seems alive, a grotesque, pulsing organism under the control of a single alien intelligence. The camera emphasizes scale, mountains stripped, forests gone, oceans dyed with alien ichor, human civilization erased. The horror is not just physical, it is existential, leaving the audience with a feeling of cosmic dread. The climax hits as the Hive Fleet begins to send bioships toward nearby star systems, turning Earth's biomass into fuel for galactic expansion. Humanity is no longer just endangered, it is all but erased. Only a few scattered pockets of survivors remain, hiding in unreachable corners. But even these are ephemeral in the face of the Tyranid swarm. The final moments focus on a haunting quiet, distant screams, soft chittering, and the low hum of the hive mind dominating the globe. The protagonists, exhausted and grief-stricken, stare at the horizon, knowing that their world has been irreversibly transformed. The story ends on a cosmic note, pulling back from Earth into the black void of space. The audience sees the Tyranid Hive Fleet advancing toward nearby systems, leaving an overwhelming impression of inevitability, horror, and hopelessness. Humanity's fight was courageous, but ultimately futile. The final shot lingers on the once blue planet, now a grotesque, pulsing organism, a hive of death and consumption. Silence, darkness, and dread dominate, leaving the audience emotionally drained, horrified, and in awe of the grimdark scale of the Tyranid apocalypse. The remnants of humanity stumble through the husks of cities, their eyes wide with exhaustion, fear, and disbelief. Streets that once thrived with life are now jagged corridors of ruin, littered with the twisted skeletons of buildings, vehicles, and the lives that once inhabited them. Smoke curls endlessly into a sky choked with ash, casting the world in perpetual twilight. Each footstep is a gamble. Every corner hides the possibility of death. The soldier leads the group, his boots crunching over debris, muscles tight with tension, eyes scanning for the slightest movement. He is the embodiment of perseverance, but even he cannot hide the creeping realization that the enemy is unstoppable. Behind him, the civilian grips a worn photograph, a tether to a past now irretrievably lost. The scientist clutches datapads and instruments, desperate to find patterns, desperate for answers, but each calculation only reinforces the nightmare. Above, the Tyranid bioships orbit the planet in slow, deliberate patterns, colossal and terrifying. Their alien architecture unlike anything human minds were meant to process. From these monstrous vessels, countless swarms descend, gaunts, hormagaunts, termagaunts, and more grotesque, evolving forms that defy comprehension. The swarm moves with horrifying synchronicity, coordinated by a psychic hive mind that sees, reacts, and predicts faster than the most sophisticated human weapons. Even in the darkest corners, no sanctuary is safe. Every shadow conceals potential death. Every sound could herald destruction. Humanity, for all its resilience, is now fragmented and vulnerable, a species teetering on the edge of extinction, clinging to life with trembling hands. In pockets of shattered cities and remote landscapes, survivors struggle to maintain a semblance of order. They share quiet, fleeting moments, whispers of hope, the briefest of smiles, a hand held for reassurance. But these are fleeting. The Tyranids do not rest. Forests that once pulsed with green life are stripped bare, replaced by writhing biomass that feeds the ever-growing horde. Oceans roil with bioorganic monstrosities. Rivers stagnate under the weight of alien secretion, and the very air carries spores that choke and suffocate. Every landscape is transformed into a feeding ground, every moment a battle to survive. The world has become a theater of horror, a grotesque stage upon which humanity's fragility is made painfully clear. Amid this devastation, acts of courage and sacrifice shine, brief flickers of light in an endless dark. The soldier risks his life to drag civilians from collapsing structures, even as the ground shakes beneath Tyranid assault. The civilian hides children in the rubble, improvising traps that delay the enemy for precious minutes. The scientist transmits fragments of knowledge, messages into the void, hoping that somewhere in the stars, another force might heed the warning of Earth's fall. These acts, while small in the cosmic scale, carry immense weight, proof that humanity's spirit, though battered, refuses to vanish entirely. But the cost is crushing. Friends are lost, families torn apart, and each act of heroism is shadowed by imminent death. The audience feels the tension of every heartbeat, the fragility of life, and the impossible odds stacked against these survivors. As night falls, the ruined world is bathed in a sickly, alien glow. Fires blaze endlessly, and the Tyranid's presence casts unnatural shadows over ruined streets and forests. The survivors pause to look back over the decimated landscape, witnessing in silence the enormity of what has been lost. Cities, forests, rivers, and oceans, all that humanity held dear, have been consumed, repurposed into the living machinery of the Tyranid Hive Fleet. The air thrums with psychic resonance, an oppressive weight that presses against their minds, a constant reminder of the alien intelligence controlling every movement, predicting every strategy. Here, even silence is unbearable, broken only by the distant, wet chittering and screeches of swarming creatures that stalk the planet. In these final hours, emotions reach their apex. Grief, despair, courage, and fleeting hope intertwine. The young civilian clutches the photograph, eyes brimming with tears, whispering names of those lost. The soldier kneels, surveying the devastation, a grim determination etched into his face, knowing that while humanity may be on the brink, some must survive to carry the memory of what was lost. The scientist works feverishly, recording observations, patterns, anything that might inform future generations or alien civilizations that might encounter this threat. The trio represents the human spirit, fragile yet unyielding, small yet defiant in the face of an incomprehensible predator. The Tyranid Hive Fleet begins to orchestrate its next phase. Massive bioships rise from the planet, pulsing with energy, spawning new swarms that spread across continents and into the oceans. Lictors and carnifexes move with terrifying intelligence, tearing through what remains of human resistance. Even the air itself seems alive, heavy with spores and psychic pressure. Humanity's struggle is no longer a battle. It is survival against a force that does not negotiate, does not relent, and does not tire. Every moment is measured in seconds of life, every breath an act of defiance against an unstoppable tide. Yet even as the darkness closes, there is beauty in the resilience displayed. Tiny acts, a hand held, a whispered reassurance, a final act of bravery, illuminate the endless night. The camera lingers on survivors, moving through ruined streets, their shadows long in the alien light, eyes fixed on the horizon, hearts beating against the weight of despair. These small acts of defiance remind the audience that while humanity may be broken, its spirit endures, and its memory will resonate across the stars even if the planet itself falls. The outro culminates in a cosmic perspective. The camera pulls away from the devastated Earth, revealing the planet, now a grotesque, pulsing organism, feeding the Hive Fleet and preparing to expand into nearby systems. Swarms move like currents of a dark ocean, carrying the essence of Earth into the greater galactic expanse. Silence dominates, save for distant, haunting echoes of Tyranid chittering and psychic hums, leaving the audience suspended between awe and terror. Humanity's fight was courageous, but the scale of the predator was unimaginable, leaving only memory, courage, and despair as remnants of the world that was. The story closes on a lingering, grim tableau. Earth transformed into a living hive, the survivors tiny figures against overwhelming destruction, and the galaxy poised to feel the ripple of this unstoppable force. The audience is left in awe, haunted by the inevitability of the Tyranid conquest, yet emotionally connected to the bravery, sorrow, and humanity of those who stood against annihilation. The outro resonates like a dirge for a fallen world, a dark meditation on courage, loss, and the inexorable advance of the alien horde, leaving viewers both horrified and enthralled, their imaginations consumed by the scale of grimdark horror in the universe.